Okay, so I don't even know if this is streaming. Yes, it is. Alright, cool. Continuing my Wednesday streaming session. Don't feel like doing it tonight. But I'm going to. Because I'm committed. Anyway. Actually, let's put this over here. Alright. No, not watching that one. Alright, so today I'm watching some idiot that decided to shoot up his Cybertruck and then regrets it and then asks Musk for a new one. Like Musk is going to give him a new one. Yep, not going to happen. Anyway, it's a long video, so I'm going to just skip to the good parts, if there are any.
What is, if it ricochets, does it hurt or not?
No. This guy is an idiot. Listen to that first comment. Oh, man. Like, this guy knows nothing about weapons and they're putting a weapon in his hand.
What is, if it ricochets, does it hurt or not?
If it ricochets, does it hurt or not? You're an idiot. Nah, it's fine, mate. I think that depends on where you are when it ricochets. Ricochets can kill you if you're close enough with a powerful enough weapon.
I don't know the velocity here.
Oh my god,
The guy just wants to ignore him.
right, I'm sorry. Don't shoot me.
Don't be scared now.
Oh my god, he's
Don't be scared now. What the f***, like a nerd? What's wrong with
Hey, Sully, shoot the back door.
Hey, back up.
Are you righty or lefty?
I mean, add
You're righty.
Why don't you just answer it, you idiot?
Oh my god, dude. I'm about to piss my pants.
Because we're doing like a whole day's worth of safety.
Okay.
So
I'll probably watch this whole thing and just go on forever with just commenting about this guy and how dumb he is and the stupid shit that he says. But this video goes for 52 minutes. That's way too long.
feet shoulder width apart. Right foot slightly back. Bend your knees, upper body forward. So you want to keep your chest bladed to your target.
Okay.
Alright, so he's just giving
Can't hit
him
me?
firing positions.
Promise?
Well, I can't promise that.
I'm doing it first?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm scared. Is it gonna ricochet and hit me?
No, you're good.
Promise?
Well, I can't promise that.
I can't promise that.
Close to you. If I get shot, it's YOLO.
Alright. Wait, you're right. I like that. I like
Stand
that.
for everything.
Are you scared?
Huh?
Are you scared of this?
Never. Our time's our time, my friend.
Alright, is this right?
Make sure safety's on. Yeah. The whole.
Alright. Let's get through this crap.
What's that?
Don't, because
Yeah.
you're already gonna shoot the other shit, and then if you shoot too many times the same hole, you're gonna go through it.
Oh.
Well, we're trying to not risk.
Oh.
Got it.
So if I were you, I would do.
So if you shoot the same hole that has already been impacted, the same area is going to impact it more. Wow. Didn't get that.
Like 5 rounds of each thing, because that's already too much.
Got it, got it, got it. So I'll just shoot 5 more.
Yeah, you ready?
Yeah.
Wait, are they ready? You ready? Yeah? All right. Cool.
All right, my name is Ada Ross. Today we're shooting up a Tesla truck. Shout out to Elon Musk. Let's get it.
Yeah, okay.
There you go, just like that.
Ready?
Yep.
It locks again. Why is it doing that?
Do it again.
It's ball action?
Double feeded.
Hey, the MP5
Alright.
is better. Just don't hold it.
MP5?
Keep going.
Is it because that gun's old? Is that why?
Okay, he said
That gun's old, is that why?
hit the same hole more than once, it's gonna go through.
Is it because that gun's old? Is that why?
Okay, he said
That
Because
gun's
it's
is that
old.
why? That gun's old, right?
Yeah,
Okay, how old
sure.
is this?
Sure, mate.
Oh my god, an MP5? What the fuck? Okay. What do I hold it at?
What is wrong with these people? Why are they giving him
If you
this
look in here, I think
Do I hold it
these
under?
weapons?
Is that a silencer?
Yeah.
No way.
Like that.
It's not gonna hurt my hand?
No, you're good.
Called a suppressor, mate.
There's a red dot in here. Can you see the red dot or no?
Mid.
Yeah?
No.
Let me see. Yeah, there's a red dot in there.
I know, but I can't see it really.
Oh.
I'm saying, if I put my fingers, is it gonna hurt me right here?
No. Put your thumb like this on that.
Like that?
Yeah. But hold it like this. Like you're gonna cup it.
Like that? Oh, okay.
There you go. You put your finger here.
Shoot it?
Yep.
Oh my fucking God. Oh my God. It's so inaccurate. Oh God. Oh my.
So inaccurate.
Oh my God. How many more?
Mate, oh, why is this not pausing? You're standing up and you've never shot before. It seems like you've never ever shot a weapon before and you're saying it's inaccurate. Weapon's not inaccurate. You're inaccurate.
Oh my God. This is so sick. Through?
Maybe.
Oh. Did that go through?
Maybe.
Dude.
Oh my God, how could you hit the same spot twice? That's crazy.
Maybe.
Oh my.
Maybe.
Dude.
It might have.
Oh.
Is the bullet in the car?
No, it's in the frame.
What happened? Going through just right there.
Is that bad?
Good time.
No, it's good.
Good.
good. It's fine.
Passing the test.
Huh?
Right here. Passing the test so far.
Yeah, it is past the test though.
That shit's really bulletproof.
That's insane.
That is actually nuts.
shot it right here.
Look at these holes. Yeah, I fucked up. Bro, the MP5, you get high off that shit. That shit was crazy. It's like COD.
Cops.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's like a video game, sure.
The fragment. So you were asking about where the
What's up, Will?
This is it right here.
You want to shoot it?
Mushroom.
When the
That's a piece.
got it. Shoot it.
Those are FMJs.
Alright, let's move on.
Yeah, because in COD, whenever I put FMJ on my guns, it goes through materials.
Yeah,
Well, I'll do one shot
God.
of shotgun after you. I'm gonna see how you do it, and I'm gonna do that.
This guy's an idiot. He's getting all his weapon information from COD.
After you.
I'll back up so.
YOLO.
Jolo.
Wait, what?
Holy shit!
What the fuck?
Are they using a shotgun?
Dude, that's close as fuck. Jordan. Oh my God. What the fuck?
Oh, this a fit.
yeah, it's a semi.
Oh, semi. Okay.
Hey, hold up.
Wait. Hold on. That was insane.
Wanna go?
No, I'm gonna let you go one more time. I will. I'm gonna
Do it now, because any more, they're gonna lose the door.
right now.
Yeah.
All right, fuck it. I'll do it.
Let's go.
Is it gonna like? No. On there maybe.
You're shooting the shotgun?
Yeah.
That's just gonna launch you back.
No.
You're back.
From there.
Yeah, right.
Right now. Oh my thug. Now I'm a thug.
Oh my God, this guy's an idiot.
Door.
Oh, he's letting loose. This guy's trying to get the smallest group ever and go straight through the middle.
What the? It went through.
I'm only gonna shoot one time.
Well, that door's not opening.
Ooh.
Well, I'll pay for it.
It opens.
I'll pay for. Oh,
Shot of the glass.
Jesus!
You broke the glass.
It's not glass.
for it.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, it is glass inside.
Wow.
Let's talk about the metal.
Elon Musk.
No, stop. Actually, the glass is broke. Careful.
Is it broken in there?
Yeah. Look right here.
That's not glass. That's sand.
Oh. Let's try rolling it up, yeah?
Over here. It's broken. Niggas broken.
It's probably already broken.
No, it wasn't.
It's probably
No, it's
already
broken.
broken. It probably was.
Hold it. Hold it. Wow.
Should I roll it up?
Nah, keep it.
Yeah. Stop, Convy.
Bro, this car looks hard. Like
And there you
I
go,
swear.
straight through the glass.
Yo, we Picture parking in Art Basel with like an art piece. Somebody would buy it for like $5 million.
Oh God, I'm actually sad.
I mean, it's taken like 50 shots to the fucking car.
Hey, bro, yo, I'm not gonna lie, bro. Elon. We need a refund. No, not a refund. But can I please have another truck, bro? I'll literally give this back to you, please.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Duty, bro. I just shot an MP5. That was.
Bro, this car would hold like 50 shots. It passed the job. I don't know. Wait, there's a hole.
It looks sick with the hole. So look, new window, easy to fix. Door.
Keep the bullet holes, bro.
Not that though. Not the holes. Yeah.
How are you gonna repair this fucking thing? They're gonna have to.
Anyway, this guy's a moron. And
Hey, I need every.
so this is why idiots like this do it. Because Tesla on their YouTube channel put up things like this where people think that the car's invincible. But it's not.
We've already tested shopping carts and we've tested door dings today for Cybertruck. The goal is to get more ductile. While we're at up to 1.8 millimeters thick. So actually, in the end, it's just icing on the cake. So we've done double-aught buck and, of course, Tommy gun, 45 caliber. So we'll get all these through tested today and we'll see the results.
Alright, let's have a look. It's a Tommy gun.
Clear. We took a Tommy gun to the side of this truck and everything looks intact. All right, moment of truth. It's pretty good. This one intact.
I wouldn't say it looks intact. It looks like it's damaged and you're never ever going to be able to repair that. And I don't know, maybe it's an American thing, but who needs a bulletproof truck? I don't know. I don't need one. Anyway, I'm pulling this down because I'm getting warnings, so I don't want to get copyright. Let's see, it's probably from the Cybertruck thing. Exempt channels for content ID claims. Yeah, whatever, I don't care. I'm doing a reaction to it, so it doesn't really matter. You can warn me. Probably just the music. Just get put up for that. Anyway, moving on. Moving on to away from idiots and onto something else, which is interesting. So COVID vaccine mandates for emergency workers found to be unlawful. This is an Australian determination in the courts that the emergency workers mandates for them to have shots or be sacked or all that stuff that they went through. So it's gone through the courts and it's found to be unlawful. So I think it's going to go further in the court system. That's going to be interesting. Anyway.
Favour of Queensland's frontline workers who took their bosses to court fighting against COVID-19 vaccine mandates.
The decision means directives ordering police and paramedics to get the jab were unlawful and had no power.
They sobbed and cheered inside court and even louder out.
Yeah, how does everyone feel?
Excellent, I think. I think that speaks volumes for how my clients feel about the decision.
Dozens of
Yeah, I think that's just... It's just crazy how the way that people or communities, countries, states, whatever, how everyone reacted and acted with this whole COVID thing, and they just mandated things that they would never ever do, that you have to have these certain vaccinations, even though there was not enough data and clinical trials for these vaccinations. It's just like, you guys are all guinea pigs and test dummies and you have to take it, otherwise you're gonna get sacked. Oh, okay, I'll risk my life to keep my job, thanks.
Police officers and paramedics challenged Queensland's COVID-19 vaccine mandates, arguing they should never have been forced to choose between getting the jab and keeping their jobs. Today, they won.
No.
It's, been a long time coming after being stood down without pay for 2 years for a mandate from 2 years ago.
The Supreme Court ruling does not mean mandatory vaccination itself is unlawful, but the specific direction to police officers was, because outgoing Commissioner Katarina Carroll failed to give proper consideration to human rights.
See, yeah, and this is the shit thing, because it has to be unlawful, because you're giving people a choice whether to take this experimental vaccination drug, or you're going to lose your income, or the thing that provides you everything that you need. Unless you can find it somewhere else that will allow you to not be vaccinated. It's just crazy. Like, people have to be held accountable for this, because people just bow down, like, because you don't have, like, I did the same thing. You don't have an option. You need to work, and it's like, you got to get by. So what do? You have to take the risk and get vaccinated, and it's not good. Shouldn't have happened that way.
While a similar order issued to Queensland health staff was ruled to be of no effect because bosses couldn't prove they had the power to give such an order under an implied term of employee contracts.
We are still considering that decision. His Honour did not find that mandatory COVID vaccinations were contrary to the Human Rights Act.
The judge also ruled that no disciplinary action can be taken or continued in both the QAS and the QPS cases, and the vaccine directive can no longer be enforced. Queensland's vaccine mandates were lifted months ago, but many unvaccinated workers say they still haven't been able to return.
They're being vindicated.
It's crazy.
Some of them have been facing disciplinary proceedings, and hopefully now that will see an end to all of that.
I can foresee there'll be a class action against the government for those people.
Their legal action was largely funded by billionaire Clive Palmer. The Queensland Health in particular ruling could now open a door to lawsuits from other sacked workers in other industries.
Yeah, this is definitely opening up the floodgates, especially for government workers, because I think they're the ones that were mainly held accountable to having to get vaccinated or lose your job or sit out of work for a while, be suspended or whatever. I don't know what all the options were in terms of choosing not to be vaccinated, but you're pretty much blackmailed for if you're in a government sanction or government sort of agency. So not even government agencies, even just normal jobs, most normal jobs. Like, if you had to attend a workplace and physically be there, then your workplace would require you to be vaccinated. Otherwise, you can't work. It's nuts. It is. The whole thing is nuts. Everyone just went crazy. It was a period in history, in time, where everyone went nuts and just everyone was crazy. Everyone that was in charge was just crazy and just thinking that this whole vaccination thing was a good thing and it was going to work. And yeah, it's all right. We're not guinea pigs. It's proven. It's the science. Well, it's starting to come out that it wasn't. It's not. And everyone gets COVID anyway. So what's the point?
Depending on the terms of their contracts.
That is an argument that might potentially be open to other employees who were dismissed as a result of a vaccine mandate.
So I'm happy to fund more cases.
Anna Rawlings, 9 News.
Anyway. Interesting. Alright, what do we got? Let's stick with the COVID stuff. Actually, this guy's pretty good. I see what videos he has. Stick with the same thing.
You are very
What's the latest? New damning evidence. COVID myths. Oh, let's This is 3 minutes. Let's look at COVID myths. Oh. Actually, let's look at the damning evidence. I don't know what it's for, but let's look at it.
Well, a very warm welcome to this video, Wednesday the 6th of March. Now, what I'm going to be talking about today has got huge implications for the United Kingdom and massive international implications for those countries where most of us live that still have some vestige of law and order in them. Now, what we're going to be talking about is this letter from Mr. Andrew Bridgen, Member of Parliament, and it is to the Sir Mark Rowley, who's in charge of the Metropolitan Police, and he released this into the public domain yesterday. Now, the letter was actually posted, by the looks of it, on the 20th of February 2024, but this has just been released by Andrew Bridgen into the public domain. Now, I'm going to read you some parts of this letter because the implications just couldn't be any stronger, really. I'm contacting you as a serving member of Parliament. Now, that means it's got to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
If that's not taken seriously, we can pack in and forget parliamentary democracy.
Using his title.
I seek an urgent meeting with you and senior Metropolitan Police detectives to discuss some very serious and concerning issues that have been brought to my attention regarding the coronavirus pandemic response and the vaccination programme. This is a matter of paramount importance for the well-being and safety of the British public. I and others deem this to be a national emergency and have identified a litany of failures and cover-ups that can no longer be ignored, despite various people's best effort.
Wonder how much of a cover up this whole like everything that happened with the whole COVID thing and the vaccinations and everything else. People want to throw a lot of the stuff that happened under the rug so they don't get held accountable for things that happen. So I wonder how much of sweeping under the rug was done everywhere. Like you can't escape it these days. Like things are going to come out. People are smart enough to do their own research, look into things, communicate. Like we have the largest form of communication today, like ever in human history. So people are going to talk, people are going to communicate, people are going to expose things, and that's, I think, what we're seeing now. I think it'll take a bit of time because there's a lot of stuff even in social media trying to get pushed away, but it won't. It's going to come out.
Sorry, that was me saying it. Right, back to the letter. The usual routes via Standards Committee, government departments, regulators and civil servants have all been dismissed or ignored. And we've played the videos on this channel, haven't we? Members of Parliament getting up and pointedly walking out when this issue is discussed. Complete disgrace, of course, to British parliamentary democracy, in my view. Contact with the independent COVID inquiry team. I won't comment on the independent inquiry team in the UK. Contact with the independent COVID inquiry team was made, and they have clearly stated their role is not to determine innocence or guilt. They further added, if criminality is suspected, to these reports, these allegations to the police should be reported to the police. It is for this very reason this is now a matter for the police. Very serious criminal offences, to name but a few. Misconduct in public office. Misfeasance in public office. I'm not a legal man, but I think that just means generally messing it up.
Misfeasance.
Gross negligent manslaughter. Corporate manslaughter. Fraud. Murder.
I'm guessing the corporate manslaughter was the fact that everyone had to go into lockdown and businesses fail. How many small businesses failed through the whole COVID pandemic? And not even that, like how many businesses that needed to physically operate failed? A lot. If you didn't fail, you took a massive hit and you had to claw your way back to profitable margin again if you didn't fail. So corporate manslaughter, right there.
Manslaughter and grievous bodily harm have been identified, along with conspiracy to commit and aiding the abetting aforementioned crimes. Now, I'm just going to put this on the screen so you can see I'm not making this up. This is all here in this letter just released into the public domain. That's the bit we've just looked at. It would be prudent to have a conference room big enough to facilitate at least 20 people, because the following named men and women will be attending to provide evidence in their fields of expertise that fully support the assertions being made. And he does give a list, and I'm only talking about these people because it is now in the public domain. So we're free to talk about this now. So Dr. Mike Yeadon, former Vice President of Pfizer. Dr. Hussein Malhotra, of course, who we've had the pleasure of talking to on this channel several times. Dr. Claire Craig, that we've done a whole series with. Two, in my view, first-class medical professionals. Professor Norman Fenton, great British statistician and advocate of the people. Dr. David Cartland, who suffered greatly for his outspoken views. Dr. Tess Lawrie, who we've interviewed. We talked to Tess way back the first time, was about the ivermectin, the report she prepared for the World Health Organization.
See, this is the crazy thing. These aren't just some balloons that are just stirring up some conspiracy theories. These are career doctors that have extensive knowledge and educational experience to be able to talk on this stuff. So if anyone's going to be able to say anything about COVID and have some sort of value to bring, it's going to be doctors. Like, the government has nothing to say, or any governments have nothing to say, or anyone else that's in some sort of power has nothing to say unless they have some sort of speciality or medical background or something that gives them the right to be able to comment on this sort of stuff. Not the right, but the educational background and the knowledge to be able to comment on this sort of stuff. And I think doctors are probably the best to be able to do this sort of stuff. But a lot of them wouldn't speak up because the doctors weren't really in charge. It was a lot of the government and pharmaceutical, probably in the background as well, pharmaceutical companies. That's what I'm guessing.
World Health Organization on ivermectin. I don't think the WHO accepted it, but that was where we first involved her in this channel, and she's been working very, very hard ever since. Dr. Stephen Frost, medical doctor, Professor Angus Dalgleish, one of the, well, probably the leading cancer professor in the country. Again, we've done a whole series with Professor Dalgleish, first-class medical mind. Philip Hayland, Lewis Bayliss, both legal people. Jackie Devoy. Now, Jackie Devoy, filmmaker, again, done absolutely sterling work to bring out the truth. I think the first film was called A Good Death, which looks at the midazolam.
A Good Death.
The overuse of morphine and midazolam. How many people did that bring to a premature end in this country? Well, we still don't know. But Jackie's working on that. And I think she's working on a new one now called Playing God. Both pretty terrifying concepts. So great that these independent people are doing this really sterling work that government departments really should have been doing, but haven't been. Matt Le Tissier, famous footballer, of course. John O'Looney, plot, payment. Mark Sexton, retired police constable, again, a leading campaigner. So, yeah, let's go on and read a little bit more of the letter. Very disturbing new and damning evidence has also recently come to light, evidence that will be revealed and discussed at the meeting. I mean, I can't see if a British Member of Parliament says he's suspicious of all these things, and let's be quite honest about it, including murder, I don't see how we can possibly not investigate this and instigate this.
Yeah.
So more
big
evidence
claims.
to come to light at the meeting. Might I respectfully request a minimum of 3 hours for the meeting to allow each expert 10 minutes to verbalise their findings and discuss their own concerns. Due to the urgency and in order to prevent any further harms being caused to men and women, and especially our children, please provide a date for this meeting as soon as possible. So there we have it. Not really too much to add. Let me go into the second screen. This is the direct snippets from the screenshots from the letter. And that is basically it. If the police will have to investigate this, there's no question in my mind about it.
Well, see what happens in the UK. That's just one country that's starting to delve into it as well. So it's slowly trickling in, these investigations or these court cases. So let's see what happens. What else we got? I've got some good videos with some with a lot of information. Go COVID myths.
Children are tough cookies. Surely they didn't take any harm.
Yeah, so this was the idea that children are resilient, which was this phrase that was just repeated and
bandied about. Yeah.
Yeah, so whenever anyone was trying to raise a concern about children, we'd be told children are resilient, as if that...
I didn't hear that. Children are resilient. But it's just crazy that they offer the COVID vaccinations to kids. It was bad enough they got pulled out of school and had to do schoolwork from home. And when they were at school, had to wear masks everywhere. But then vaccinations on top of that. Oh. Yeah. Even though they were the kids were pretty much safe from this whole thing. Like, it was very rare for a child to cop it with COVID. And I've seen it. I know from experience. I've seen kids, my own, have it and almost no symptoms when I'm suffering from it.
That made it okay, and it just does not make it okay. And you know that children are resilient. What that really means is they carry on turning into adults, right? Great, but you know they're not. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have negative impacts on what kind of an adult they're going to be. There are sort of different leagues of resilience, and of course, some children really aren't resilient. There's a whole body of work on what makes a resilient child, and some children aren't resilient, and they're not resilient because they haven't got good relationships, they haven't got the supportive structures, they've had other trauma. And those were the children who were most harmed by the lockdowns because they were already in those vulnerable positions. They weren't resilient. They didn't have resilience, and they shouldn't have been dismissed as being resilient in order to justify harming them. It was just the most appalling inversion of ethics.
Ludicrous generalisation.
Can't justify it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, what's this? Dr. Boz, biggest crime in history, 3 weeks ago. Have a look at this one.
Well, hello, everybody. It is Tuesday night. We are live here on the show, and I'm actually using a couple of my apps to show you my numbers. So this is my Dexcom at 79. I have been fasting for a while, since Sunday. And then I'm going to show you, because I think it might be one of the final times that I have a continuous ketone meter that is showing you a ketone of 1.9.
Oh, wow. So she must be doing ketogenic diet. So she's showing her, I don't know what the other thing that she was showing.
1.9 ketones, glucose was 79. If somebody wants to do that, Dr. Bow's ratio for me.
79.
I am really excited about tonight's show that I have been putting this off. I have been wrong, and I have seen lots of you out there, and I have personal friends out there who've been telling me I was wrong, and I would much rather avoid this conversation, not do this at all. But you were right. So, I mean, there are some of you that I swear on every single one of the videos that I put out, you have put these comments about this topic we're going to talk about. I mean, I can be talking about, you know, vegan versus, you know, why vegetables don't matter. And you're still asking me questions in the comments for like 2 years. Every single video you've done it.
Yeah.
Yes, I've noticed. Yes, I've avoided it, but I cannot avoid this any longer. I am going to talk about something that, I don't know, I'm very disheartened as I've done this. So we're going to get right into the topic. We're going to come back and show you some other exciting things that we are announcing this week All
right, this is a long video. Let's go on with that.
Do this. This is a paper that came out just a few short weeks ago that I heard.
COVID-19 mRNA vaccines. Lessons learned from the registrational trials and global vaccination campaign.
Folks chattering about while I was doing the 21-day, but there wasn't quite a spare moment in all of the 21 days, this class that I do twice a year. And as I've looked at the report on what they were chirping about, I couldn't focus on it. I couldn't believe that this was true, or as true as it is. We've put the link of this in the show notes, so be sure to click on this because I don't know how long this is going to be up. I want you to point out a couple things here that I did not ignore, that this article was...
See, and this is, I've mentioned this in other live streams, but I don't have any viewers, so it doesn't really matter. Not many people, well, no one watches this. I watch myself back sometimes. It's so exciting. But the change from back when, just say 2 years ago or 3 years ago, if you have something like this that's up on YouTube or some sort of social media, it'll get taken down. Your channel will probably get a strike or will get completely wiped out. But and then they started bringing in information at the bottom of your video and telling you that, hey, this is where you look for the right information for the topic that they're talking about, and they'd have that for everything, and they still have that for everything. But this is like a video that is, how old is this video? 3 weeks, I think. 3 weeks ago. So, and after 3 weeks, there's still nothing at the bottom saying, oh, information for COVID-19. Look here. Maybe they're starting to realize that, hey, well, maybe if you're in the medical field and you're a doctor and you're talking about COVID and you're talking about these things, that maybe you don't need that bar of information, because maybe the bar of information hasn't delved as deeply into this sort of situation than the person that is actually talking. And there's got to be discussions for the right information to eventually rise to the surface. And it hasn't risen to the surface yet because there's not enough discussions, because things were getting shut down for a long period of time. But that's dwindled away now, and now we're starting to hear the discussions, and hopefully the truth about this whole situation and the vaccines and everything else will come out and surface. We will see.
The review for this article, it is a peer-reviewed article, and it ties into a few questions that came...
Maybe that's the reason why as well, because it's a peer-reviewed article, and then if they try and revert you to some other information, then it's not as accurate if it's not peer-reviewed. And maybe it is peer-reviewed, but then you're putting information there against something that is peer-reviewed as well, or is peer-reviewed against your non-peer-reviewed. So that's probably why they don't have that information at the bottom of this video.
Came right front and center as we were having our class over the last 3 weeks. But I want you to take notice. This review began in November of 2023. It just finished like the week that I did my, that I started this course. So I hadn't looked at it until just recently. But I want to point out a couple of things that you may not appreciate, but I do. That there are lots of crazy things that are said out there in medicine that physicians specifically ignore, and I have ignored them. That is really easy to do when we look for some stamps of approval from our advanced peers who help us to sort what's real, what's not real, what's fake news, and what's not fake news. And when somebody says that an article is peer-reviewed, and yeah, I'm sure there's shenanigans that are played in every part of medicine, but what peer review is supposed to mean is that an author puts together, in this case, a review of the data, submits his review of the data, and these really smart physicians or doctors, PhDs, statisticians, advanced scientists are they're the cross-check. They're the fact-checkers of medical articles. So in a peer-reviewed article, this one has several authors.
But I think that was the issue as well through the whole COVID scene, was the fact that things that were getting peer-reviewed, there was pressure on the people that were actually peer-reviewing it not to allow these sort of things to get through. And then, because that's all documented. So if your name is against something that's peer-reviewed that is against the grain, then you could potentially, like all other medical practitioners, all other people in the medical industry that had some sort of say or input that would have made an influence, if you went against the grain, then you could lose your license. Things could happen to you, and it could affect your career in a big way. So a lot of the people that were peer reviewing went against things that probably should be peer reviewed and didn't peer review them. So that was another issue, and that's probably why now things are actually getting peer reviewed. It's like, oh yes, okay, now we have a bit of freedom. So we can actually peer review these things and let them flow into the public information, the public domain, and have some sort of backing. But it couldn't before. It was just one person that was doing the research or whatever that was, you have to take their word for it without a peer review.
Of which I'd like to point out that Nathan Mead is one of them, Peter McCullough is one of them, and you have several others over here that are the authors. That is not who peer reviews them. You have about a dozen other peer-reviewed or peers who review the article, and that alone is shocking for this article. I'm saying this at the beginning of the article because if you're like me, what I'm about to tell you, you're gonna not want to. I don't want to believe this. I'm so irritated by this article and what it is showing me that I had to put it on a live. I think this is a difficult thing for me to talk about. This is a very heavy article. There's no chance you're all going to read this. I'm going to point out a few things that took my attention and made me sleepless. But I want you to see that this isn't just a random person's opinion. This is a peer-reviewed article where in a peer-reviewed article, the authors or the peers will comment on the text, which means one of the authors, either the lead author or the co-authors, have to respond to the concerns and either document why that is true or not true, or they have to alter the text. And you can't publish it. That's why the review started in November. It did not end for 2.5 months because these peers, and there was like a dozen of them.
See, I never even knew that. I just thought it was a word, peer review, but it makes sense now. Your peers are reviewing it. So in the doctor community or the medical community, your peers in your field of expertise are reviewing it. That makes a lot of sense.
For this article, cross-checked the information that we're about to go through here. All right, so we're not going to go through all 40 pages of this, but we are going to talk about some of them so that you can see what happened to us. So let's start by saying this peer-reviewed article is showing that that the COVID-19 vaccinations, well, they were a big deal over the last 4 years, and we did some incredible partnerships with the policymakers of our community and the scientists of our community to break some of the rules in order to serve the public in a time of crisis. So one of those rules that we broke was this right here, the Emergency Use Act. So the EUA included, hey, we need to do this right now because of what's going on in our community. But that comes with a risk that I knew about, but it probably isn't until this paper that I really appreciated that there were a whole bunch of things called significant adverse effects, that's SEAs, that included things like death and cancer and cardiovascular and autoimmune problems and neurologic disorders that were happening at a rate that we thought was acceptable because of the situation. All right, so I'm going to go through this and point out the things that bothered the heck out of me. So for the most part, you all know that when we look at this process, most of the time when you look for rapid authorization of a vaccine, the fastest we can do this is 4 years. And I can remember thinking at the beginning of the pandemic,
4 years, the fastest. That's the absolute fastest they can do it is 4 years. So COVID-19 is called COVID-19 for a reason because it came into the spectrum in 2019. And so when do we have the vaccines? What? 21 at least? 2020? 21. Yeah, it would have been 21. So 19, 20, 21. So 2 years. And it was at the end of 2019 that it actually started coming to the Western world, coming to certain countries and spreading, especially in China. So I don't think they were working on it at that present time. They were just looking at trying to contain it. So when they actually started working on the vaccines, I don't know, it might have been mid-2020 or start of 2020.
that there's no way they're going to get this done in 6 months. And you had all kinds of leadership people trying to say, yes, we can. And you're like, I don't know if you can make a flu shot. I mean, just make a flu shot in 6 months, let alone, get one that's for a virus that we had no idea about. That the trial period takes an average of 10 years to say, well, how dangerous is what we've been doing? So those are some of the basics to compare to.
The trial period is normally 10 years. So what she's talking about is 4 years to actually develop the actual vaccination. The trial period is 10 years. So they started in 2020. Really, it should be we're getting a vaccination now. And then 2034, the trials have been completed and the vaccination been determined as safe or unsafe or being consumed by humans or being injected into humans. We've already gone through all that, like at fast pace, speed ramp, done. Okay, what are the issues now? This extreme human trials on steroids. Ugh.
The first part of the article goes through a few things that give some examples. I like this one. Some examples include in 1955, a contamination of a polio virus. It had instances of Guillain-Barré syndrome observed in the flu vaccination in 1976. And there was a connection between narcolepsy with some of the flu vaccinations in 1999. We know there are adverse effects that come from vaccinations. And so we're not saying this never happens. We're saying that we thought this was an appropriate risk for the pandemic that we were living through. And I think if you're like me, when you get to the end of this article, it makes you think, what did we say yes to? What really did we say yes to? And I am not a conspiracy theorist. I really do believe in the hearts of people that are doing their job as scientists and doing their best to make the best policies and rules.
You shouldn't even have to say that because I'm guessing this person is a doctor because He states Dr. Boz, but anyway, who knows these days? Anyone can claim anything, but I'm assuming that she seems like she knows what she's talking about. But to have to worry as a medical practitioner or someone that's trained in the medical field to have to worry about being put in the category as a conspiracy theorist because they're bringing something up that they have information and knowledge and education to speak on is crazy. That shouldn't even be in their heads at all, but it is because of everything that's happened.
For a community. But the one thing that I think should have been pointed out first is, where do they talk about that they started using the word vaccination when they probably shouldn't have been doing that. Yeah, that goes through a few rules here. It also says that there were some bias. Oh yeah, here we go. There were some results that were strongly biased in order for it to work out. And never have I seen bias play out like this at this degree. All right, so this was the other part that bothered me. It bothered me from the beginning, but it really makes me nervous once you see what this. I had heard whisperings about this, but I didn't believe it. I did not believe it. So this bothered me from the beginning, though, that they kept using the word vaccine when it was not like a normal vaccine. This is a messenger RNA.
Yeah, and that's what I'd heard before. Like I've heard a lot of things about this. Is like the fact that they classed it as a vaccine when it really wasn't a vaccine, because a vaccine gives you safeguard up to a certain percentage, where this, even with the very minimal and little clinical trials that it had, did not meet that certain standard, so should not have been classed as a vaccine. But it was. So I think that's what she's about to touch on. I think.
This is a strand of single DNA or RNA that you make DNA from, so that you're teaching the body about how to respond to this by impacting your DNA. So it shouldn't have been called vaccines. It should have been called, let me put a blue in here. It should have been called gene therapy product, because it wasn't really changing the gene therapy. Let me just show you this slide here where.
Yeah, I don't know this. I don't know, but I know it shouldn't have been called a vaccine. But this is interesting.
This is DNA on the top, which is double-stranded. Your body will make a messenger RNA from that, at which point you can make a protein. So maybe a spike protein. We'll get to that in a second. All right, we're going to come back to this in a minute. That other picture in a minute. Don't look at that. Don't look at that. There we go. Look at this. All right, so the first of all, the terminology that they go into here says, yeah, why are you using those terms? There's another really interesting thing that you should be aware of, and that is they put this synthetic messenger RNA into a protective lipid nanoparticle. What that means is that lipid-based nanoparticle is going to be able to immerse into cell membranes much differently than anything we've ever used before. All right, so there's that whole thing. And now, this big circle here where I said, don't forget to say this. The problem with what they were playing with is there is no off switch for this. In a vaccination, your immunity rises and then it falls, and your body's done. With what they were playing with, there's no mechanism built into our bodies that has the ability to turn it off. Like if you take that DNA, you have a messenger RNA, now you're making a protein. Well, how do you stop making a protein?
Yeah.
Once this turns it on. And that wasn't, I know. Somebody just said, oh, you're going to get canceled. I don't think so. I think I'm reviewing this scientific article, and I know I haven't done a lot of this.
And I think that's the thing now. She's reviewing a scientific article that's peer-reviewed, so she's not going to get cancelled. Not in this environment now that we're in, post all the craziness of COVID. Like, yes, we live with COVID now. It is what it is. But I don't think she's going to get cancelled for any of this sort of stuff. That's interesting that it is something that can't be switched off, and it's can release protein, and you can't have any power over that. Or like your body doesn't have any power over that. It can't stop it from doing what it's going to do.
But there is this needs discussed. This is a really important part of what happens as physicians when you trust that the scientific process is being used, and when they need to make exceptions to it, well, it shouldn't be that the exceptions break every stinking rule out there. All right, let me go through. So this section, and again, download this article, take a look at this. It's written, yeah, it's a little scientific, but it's not that scientific. So when S proteins enter the bloodstream and disseminates systemically, it may be contributing to factors that cause these adverse effects. And when we look at what the narrative is for what the research team was looking for, they really kind of, well, they did some things that you shouldn't do in scientific reviews or scientific processes. All right, so let's just back up. So registration for the trials, a couple things that I think were kind of weird. So I'm gonna read this part right here, because the study designed for the pivotal trials led to these, the Emergency Use Act, were never intended to determine whether or not a messenger RNA inoculation could prevent severe disease or premature death. It was mainly due to insufficient statistical power for assessing these outcomes. The power calculations was based solely on the reduction of COVID-19 symptoms, which was the primary outcome. And this limitation stemmed from recruiting these young, healthy people in what they were studying, and then extrapolating that to the data for elder people. All right, so let's see.
And this is another thing that was... All this was done for the I don't want to sound like I don't give a crap about people that are elderly. Like, I have an elderly grandmother and grandfather, but a lot of this stuff was done to protect the elderly. But in human civilization, I think that the elderly would prefer to look after the young and would happily risk, no, I don't want to say sacrifice, but would happily risk potential things happening to them so the young don't get affected by things put onto them. That's how you normally work in society. You look after your women and children first. It's sinking ship theory. Hey, the ship's going down, women and children, we want to save them. Men and people that control the ship, especially like people that are willing to sacrifice themselves, will sacrifice themselves for people that are more vulnerable can continue on. So it's crazy, the whole risking younger people and everyone else in society for the more vulnerable, where there could have been probably other things put in place to protect them and not risk everyone else, I think. Am I crazy? I don't know. I definitely.
So, yeah, I'll just, for instance, Pfizer's trial recorded one instance of severe COVID-19 death, whereas the Moderna's trial reported none, leading to a company to proclaim 100% efficacy for preventing severe illness. And I point all that out to say, yep, they took this healthy population of people, the ones that aren't going to have severe problems. They gave them vaccinations. One had a death, one didn't. But they said, hey, we prevented severe symptoms of COVID-19 with this process. All right, so this is where I start to get really ticked off. You can see my writing gets a little bit bigger. I start putting exclamation points everywhere because this is where you start to see they played some really naughty games with the numbers here. So I want you to point out that that they are looking at looking for the efficacy of mRNA product out of 162 from the 22,000 placebo recipients contracting COVID-19 and compared it to only 8 of the 22,000 vaccinated recipients. None of the 162 placebo recipients who contracted COVID-19 died. These numbers are too small to draw meaningful, pragmatic, and broad sweeping conclusions. Moreover, this is the part that's shocking. 170 PCR confirmed cases diverts the attention from the other finding that a much larger number of cases identified during the study fell under the category of suspected COVID-19. So they put them there and said, yeah, these people we think had suspected disease. 170 of them were confirmed. I mean, for heaven's sakes, confirm that they have the dang disease before we start making rules for the whole population on what was happening. They had 3,400 of them who they said, yeah, we think they had COVID. This acts like COVID. Well, run the dang test. Run the PCR. Why would you skip that step? Because what happens next is where these, so suspected individuals were...
These numbers, even 3,410, that's even small numbers for the whole population. But 170, that's very low.
I'll just take this eraser so you can see what and I'll re-underline it. Where the individuals exhibited symptomatic COVID-19, but they lacked a positive PCR. These tests were used in the trials where they were widely accepted. These were the standard of care for saying, do they actually have COVID-19 for some of the conclusions that we made? A total of 3,400 cases of suspected but unconfirmed COVID-19 were identified. This is a 20-fold increase between the suspected and the confirmed cases. And then if you, look that I'm trying to see this actually, where there were 20
Go back.
Accepted. These were the standard of care for saying, do they actually have COVID-19 for some of the conclusions that we made? A total of 3,400 cases of suspected but unconfirmed COVID-19 were identified. This is a 20-fold increase between the suspected and the confirmed cases. And then if you...
So the suspected, that's what I thought it was. Suspected is 170. The not confirmed is 3,410. I think that's how she's talking about.
Look that I'm trying to see this actually. Where there were 1,500 cases for the vaccinated and 18...
Okay, out of 3,410 suspected, only 170 were confirmed.
100 for the placebo, but when factoring in both, confirmed that the suspected cases... confirmed and suspected cases, the vaccine efficacy against developing symptoms drops to only 19% when you start to say, hey, how well did we do at understanding did this vaccination reduce the symptoms? I remember reading this stuff, not knowing that this part in the background was based on not confirmed vaccinations, they suspected that it was COVID. They didn't confirm that that's what they were talking about. Okay, so it might be minor to you guys, but again, that's the first place where my trust got a little sideways. Okay, so the trial concludes that the trial conclusion was predicted on a mere 100 of such COVID-19 cases, recording. Go here. Recorded in the placebo group. Let me go down to the next part. The lack of the ability to evaluate the severe illness in the trials reflected the real-world context, namely that the likelihood of severe COVID-19 hospitalization and dying from the infection has always been very low, but stratifying by age and infection fatality rate, the IFR, in 2021 showed an age-related gradient and an approximately 3 to 4 time increase in each decade. Okay, so, and as that went on, we did continue to confirm that. But what they didn't tell us was this next part. So we have overall all-cause mortality. And what did the pivotal trials reveal about the all-cause mortality? After carefully analyzing this, they found that 31 in the vaccinated and 30 in the placebo had a mortality relative risk of 1.03 compared to comparing the vaccinated to the placebo. Oopsie, I put that in the wrong spot. Comparing the vaccinated to the placebo. These findings became interpreted as no significant difference or no gold standard evidence showing that these mRNA vaccinations reduced mortality.
So it's proving that it doesn't reduce mortality.
Huh? The lack of significant difference in the deaths between the study arm is noteworthy. The true mortality impact remains unknown in this context, and this fact alone is relevant. That a good trial evidence of reducing mortality than to take a vaccine where the trial evidence does not show convincing evidence to improve the survival. And then we get into, so this keeps going on, where what's really being talked about here is that not only were they looking at when the death rates, were the symptoms of the COVID-19 measured fairly to impact, is it worth the risk of a vaccination that isn't being, that is new to us? Not only is it the first mRNA vaccination that I'm aware of, it is massively delivered to all our children, pregnant women, and elders.
So mRNA, it's the first vaccination that she's heard of as a medical practitioner. So this is, like I've said, this is all just experimental stuff, and it's just being given to everyone, men, women, and children of all ages and risks to COVID. Even though the risks are a lot more minimal for younger generations, which that's what you want. That's who you want to thrive. Or we're trying to reduce the population. That would be getting into conspiracy theories.
This whole section in here goes through that they're playing funny games with the math. One of the best parts about...
All right, I'll watch this bit and then I'm going to just end the stream. Because I'm done with it and no one's watching anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Statistics is when people start to play with the math, you might not be able to see the exact place that they played with the math, but it doesn't plot out in the expected way that the statistics say it should. And here's the part that I wanted to say. Both deaths are counted in each arm of the trial. This is really important. I know that this might there's two more points that I need to make, this one and the next one, which really shocked me. Okay, every 6 months, let's see, where did it begin? Okay, so they extended the portion of the trial, included 4 months of an unblinded period, where most placebo participants crossed over to the vaccination group. Okay, so here's another thing that they did. When you look at a trial of people, you have a placebo arm and you have a treatment arm. So what they did, and what I'm about to point out here, which was totally naughty, is they put them in the trial arm, they put them in the treated arm, and then they let them continue for, I think it was a short period of time. I want to say it was like, 4 weeks, not even 4 weeks, where if you got the placebo version of it, and you got so far out, you could say, yep, they told them you had placebo, and then they could change their mind and go over to the vaccinated side. And now what they were doing is they were using some of the people who started in the placebo line but ended up with the vaccination in the data for the placebo. So they got the vaccination, they had a significant adverse effect, but they're being counted in the people who didn't get the vaccination because that's where they started. They didn't fix that. I mean, first of all, they should have never offered that to them that early in the process. And I know that all rules were off when we look at the way this turned out. But let me just read this because it's heartbreaking. Oh, I want to do the other one. I think it reads a little easier. Not that one. Dang, I did it again. This one, yeah. All right, so they extended the portion of the trial. Okay, it was 4 months, not 4 weeks in the unblinded period, in which most placebo patients crossed over to the vaccination group. So they went from being placebo, and now they're in the vaccination group. During this phase, there were 5 additional deaths. including 3 in the original vaccination group and 2 among the placebo participants who chose to get vaccinated after 4 months had gone by.
What?
When these 5 deaths are included in the vaccination deaths, the total comes to 20 deaths in the vaccination group and only 14 in the placebo group, which would represent a 43% increase in deaths when you got vaccinated, which is not statistically significant due to the small count. But in the FDA documents, a total of 38 deaths were reported, with 21 in the vaccination group and 17 in the placebo group.
This is showing that the vaccination groups died more than the placebo non-vaccinated group. Wow.
Representing a 23% increase in all-cause deaths among those who received 2 doses of the primary series. This suggests that the 2 placebo participants who died after getting a messenger RNA vaccination were counted twice. They were counted in the vaccination group and they were counted in the placebo.
They are cheeky shits. So they putting people over from the placebo groups over to vaccinated. Okay, you're going from now placebo, you're not getting anything, to now you're getting something. If you die or if something happens to you, we will count you as included in the vaccination group, but then we'll also, because you were originally in the placebo group, we'll count you as being a placebo patient, placebo person. That is crazy. So, and then that means that then those numbers are fudged even more. So it should be even dramatically reduced in terms of the placebo group deaths compared to the vaccination deaths. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, and then they talk about how they would run those numbers. So you don't have to be a statistician to understand what I'm trying to say, which is they played games to have this bias towards the favorability of the vaccination. Now just wait, hang in there. I know you might not like numbers, but this is really an important process.
I can't believe they play these games. Like, if you're doing this stuff, unless there's someone overarching what you're doing with your studies and looking at. Okay, no, it's a pharmaceutical company, so I guess that it plays a big part of it. So it doesn't have to be government influence, it can just be pharmaceutical influence. And if there's enough reach for them to twist the numbers and make things seem a certain way when they're not, it'll happen.
And if they take this paper down, I want to be part of the people who said there was more to this than they ever told us. Okay, so this is important to me. Number needed to vaccinate. So when I look at there's lots of shortcomings in this. This is an emergency process, but let's get to the brass tacks and say, well, how many people was I going to need to give this vaccination to in order to get a saved life, somebody who didn't die? So let me see where it goes in and it talks about this. It tells you about that. Okay. Okay, here we go. So the approximately 50, I'm going to use a different color because I'm running out of scribbles. 52,000 vaccinations would be needed in order to prevent one COVID-19 death.
What? 52,000. That's taking into the account the amount of deaths that come from the vaccination compared to the placebo. So, in a small group. So imagine the risk in a group of 52,000 just to prevent one death. That's just unbelievable. What the hell?
Now, they go through talking about all this, how this number needed to vaccinate, they are taking a conservative approach to this. So as you do the math, they're rounding in the way to be conservative, giving the benefit of the doubt. And it's saying this exact injection. It is estimated that about 2 lives could be saved for every 100,000 injections. And then they go to say, but now we see that we have 27 deaths per 100,000 in the same batch of injections that were happening because of adverse events.
What the hell? That's crazy. What the hell is going on? So 27 minus 2 per 100,000. So you have 25 deaths. Well, you don't even have to minus them because... Well, yes, you do. So you're giving 100,000 doses. You're saving 2 lives, but you're causing 27 deaths. So you minus 2. So really, you're minus 25. So you're killing 25 people to save 2. I hope they're important people. And most likely they're people that are either elderly or they have comorbidities, however you say it. They have issues, other medical issues, where you could have some fit 25 people that is getting killed for nothing.
So you're going to save 2 lives, but you are going to have 27 deaths as a result of the significant adverse effects. And yet this was not reported. There were nearly 14 times more deaths caused by the modified mRNA injections. And it shows you that in Appendix 2. Okay, so one last thing, and then I'm going to go to a picture, and then we can take your questions, because I think this is worthy of talking about. It's something that I have made fun of my good friend Colonel Auk, who kept telling me, there's more to this than you know, there's more to this than you know. And he worked for the military for 50 years. He's also a physician. And he kept saying, don't do it, don't do it. I'm like, don't tell me this, Colonel. Come on, they'll never be that evil. They would never be that evil. So I highly recommend reading through some of the stuff that I'm scrolling through right now, but I want to get to the final one, the one that this is where they played funny games about when they stopped counting and they held off reporting the death dates until after they stopped counting. So you see in here a place where they said, okay, I'll tell you this and then I'll read it because you'll think it's not true. They didn't report the date that the person died. If there was an adverse effect, there's a death date. That's not a difficult thing to follow. But they reported what date was the death reported to us. And so it delayed the onset of the death in the vaccinated people so that it didn't look like it was as deadly. Let me just show you this. Okay, so
you have to explain that.
Underline as I do this here because it's easy for you to follow along. Okay, so let's go to here and say Pfizer used the dates of the death was recorded in subjects' case forms, which they maintain, including the death or hospitalization within 24-hour window, a guideline likely followed by the trial staff. I still didn't get it. Let's try one more time. Okay. The researchers were able to access the narrative reports on a few critical subjects that provided explicit notification that the subject's date of death was prior to November 14th, which was this cutoff date for the data for death rates associated with the vaccination. They required immediate reporting of significant adverse effects, including death, blah, 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 blah. Nevertheless, Pfizer used the dates that the death was recorded in the subject's case report form. Like, it wasn't the actual death date, it was delayed. These delayed were greatest in the vaccination subjects prior to that November 14th reporting time. Pfizer had Pfizer used the actual death dates, 2 additional vaccinated subjects would have been included in this emergency use application Act application. This discrepancy was crucial. It changed how the outcomes were, especially when you realize that 2 of these deaths were cardiac based.
Okay, so they held off the actual reporting of the actual death date for more the reporting date of the death, so they can get over the line with how dangerous the vaccination was. That's how I take it and put it and see it.
Yeah, twice as many cardiac deaths occurred Yeah, they played some funny games, is what they're saying in this stuff here. They played plenty of funny games with the math. Okay, now the last thing I'm going to show you, which I really still can't believe. Yeah, this is one of those places where they say, yeah, they recommended it in pregnancy when they knew that absolutely not one single subject in the trial was pregnant.
That is crazy that you can recommend something in pregnancy when you have no idea of the adverse effects of a pregnant woman. Let alone everyone else, the effects of everyone else, legitimately. Oh, man.
I think that's just egregious. But let me go to this final part where then I'll quit chirping and I'll take your questions. It's not there. It's a little bit further down. Oh, yes. Okay, quality control issues. Okay, so first of all, it's a trial. This should not be an issue. So given the novelty of this mRNA technology, it was prudent to establish the regulation and the quality of the long-term safety for this monitoring. So they go to a key issue that that could help explain why individuals succumb or die while others do not is the vaccination type and batch variability. I'm like, well, why would the batches vary so much? Isn't it just an MR? I mean,
why would it not be regulated and batches be standardized? And then it wouldn't. How would that be an effect to, what is it? Individuals succumbing? Why? That shouldn't be an issue at all. If it's standardized, you can't have that as an excuse at all. Or is that just an excuse? Like you're saying, oh, it's a batch variability. So we're not actually standardizing the batches. But even that's not, like, that's incompetence from yourselves. So that's a big thing just in its own, if you're telling the truth.
I mean, there's the standards to produce these. Okay, due to the inherent instability of mRNA technology, some batches may contain extremely low levels of the messenger RNA. Some batches were contaminated with double-stranded RNA, as documented by I can't remember what EMA stood for both Madeira and or Pfizer.
So this is where the waters get very murky, and we don't know the whole truth. And even when we delve into it, how are we supposed to know the truth when this sort of stuff is being reported? It's just like all these vaccination injuries, or people that succumb due to vaccinations. Like, how do we know it's just because this vaccination? Well, we pretty much know it's because it's shit and because it's not benefiting anybody. But how do we know that a lot of these are also, and maybe majority are, because they didn't have control of how the doses were being produced and put into people? Like, if there's double vaccinations, then you're going to have a higher risk of succumbing or having adverse effects. So they're just making the water more murky and hard for us, or hard for people, and especially professionals, to see the truth. So is it just a facade? Is it just a decoy to be like, we're just going to distract you so we can keep you away from the truth? Or is this actually what happened? And if it is, either way, it's incompetence if that's what's happened anyway. So it doesn't really matter. You're still causing issues.
And Moderna products. The double-stranded DNA has a high potential to trigger immune inflammatory reactions such as myocarditis. So here it gets a little bit, this is where it really bothers me. So you say, well, I don't know much about these vaccinations. Is that like a normal thing to find in your vaccination with an mRNA? Is you're going to have some double-stranded things?
Or are they just passing the buck saying it's the distributors that are doing it wrong? They're not injecting it right. And then it's just like, our hands are clean of it. That could be a thing.
So each batch variability further complicated in recent findings of DNA contamination. Again, DNA contamination. First of all, what the hell is what is DNA doing in a vaccination that is supposed to be for the protein production to fight off this virus? But in the analysis of multiple vials, high levels of DNA contamination in both a monovalent and bivalent vaccines, in orders of magnitude higher than the limitations. Oh, I know. I think this is the regulatory board for Europe, and FDA is what we call it. So it was magnitudes higher. I mean, 10 nanograms per dose is what's allowed in our FDA, whatever, it's 330 nanograms per milliliter there. But they said it is worth noting that it just says somewhere right in here where, oh yeah, here we go. The FDA,
come on, get to your point.
It's in here.
You highlighted it.
So what they found was an enormous amount of DNA particles in the RNA that I injected into me, into my kids, into my patients. So how does such dangerous, large-scale contamination escape the scrutiny of the public health officials? And were the manufacturers aware of all of this excess DNA that was found inside these vaccinations? Oh yeah, this is the part that I wanted to say. So when you have foreign DNA in your human genome, it disrupts the existing natural genetic sequence. It also carries a further risk of disease, including cancer. I mean, DNA in your body, very dangerous. That's like CRISPR, except it's random chance of what the heck's in there, because it's a contaminant.
It's not
intended to be in there. What's it doing in there? So
unless
they said,
you're the same blood type.
It is important to note that the process-related impurities were absent from COVID-19 products when they applied to the government to get all these exemptions. So when they went to the registration trials, there were no impurities. It was strictly the mRNA. What I have in my mind that I imagined I was giving to people that I was receiving, virtually all doses used in those trials originated from clinical batches produced using what was known to be process 1. But as they went to say, well, now we need to use a different process to mass produce this mRNA, which is called process 2, and that seems to have utilizing bacterial plasmid DNA. The process 2 alterations included modifications to the DNA template employed by the RNA transcription and changes in the purification phase and adjustments in the manufacturing process for these lipophilic processes. They go on to talk about how much was in them and how this was not, huge potential to be harmful. That as you look at some of the images from people who have autopsies from death due to myocarditis. I wonder if this is, here we go. This spike proteins are found in the cells of all human heart cells with spike proteins inside the muscle to be inside us at all.
Yeah, and I think that is a scary thing, the fact that so many people have been vaccinated and had 1 and 2 and potentially 3 boosters, and then all this stuff is coming out. It's fucking scary. Like, you don't know what is going to happen to you, and you don't know the time period that you're at risk. So it could be, all right, I've had my last booster 2 years ago. All right, what's all this data and information that's coming out now? When could I potentially drop dead? Could it be 2 years from the last booster that you had? Could it be 3 years? Could it be 10 years? Like, you don't know this information. We've all been put in this experiment, and we're all guinea pigs, and we're just starting to see the outcome. And let's just take notes and see what happens, and then we'll let everyone else know, hey, this is the potential thing that could happen to you, because people are just dropping dead. They're not going to hospital because they're not expecting it. They're just boom, over, done. No more. It's crazy. It's not just crazy, it's scary. So yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to look into all the information and trying to give a peace of mind, at least to myself, and if I can, to other people. But I don't know. That information is not out. We don't know. The data and everything else is just coming out now. I don't think the numbers are drastically high, but there are people that are just dropping off, and the percentage of deaths are increasing because of this vaccination. So I think the big thing is, like, how long will it last? How long? When are you at the safe zone? At what point, if you've had a vaccination or a booster or the last shot that you had, at what point are you at that safe zone where it's just like, okay, nothing's happened to me. I'm okay. I'm past this. Not getting a shot again. And I'm going to live my life and not die from that thing. Maybe something else, but not that thing. Anyway, I'm not going to keep going with this. I'm not going to continue with the live stream. Been going for too long. Been great. Until next time. Wait. Let me get my thing up. Till next time. Scratch you later.